Boom, we did it. We are
Good
recording.
job.
We are recording. Well, hi, thanks for joining me, Ashton. I really appreciate taking a little bit of time. I know you because, and people who are listening will probably know who Dr. B is. But if you don't, Dr. B is my awesome chiropractor and friend, and just general awesome mobility soft tissue guru who's helped a lot of my clients. But some people don't know that he's married to this beautiful, wonderful woman, and here she is. So for those of us so those who don't know, Ashton, give me a little introduction to yourself.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Everybody knows in my world who Dr. B is. So.
Well, he's all right. So I'm Ashton.
Too.
So I'm Ashton. I am a naturopathic doctor. I work in Pacifica. For those of you that don't know what naturopathic doctors are, because a lot of people don't, we focus more on just the preventative aspect of health, looking in more depth at kind of what labs you may have had done, more detailed labs than maybe your general primary care doctor would run. And then we focus more on using herbs and nutritional supplements to just encourage the body to optimize itself a little bit more versus using pharmaceuticals as much as we can. And that oftentimes will entail diet and lifestyle support, which I would send you to JJ for.
So people, it's not in conflict with Western medicine, but bolster, how can we work? It's just another avenue that often or may get overlooked in just your traditional general practitioner practice, where there's it's no secret. You hear a lot of people complaining that we just treat the symptom and I once had a general practitioner be like, I went and said, can we do some preventative work? Oh, actually, I went to a physical therapist, but same idea, and was I want to do this big half marathon. Is there any way to just kind of look at my body and run some diagnostics to make sure I don't hurt myself? And she was like, no, we don't do that. But if you get injured, give me a call.
Yeah.
And so you see clients that both are experiencing a problem, but also do some preventative work as well.
Yeah, and I mean, some people just come in and they're like, I just want to maintain my health. Let's do a baseline. Let's get labs done. Let's kind of see where things are at and see what systems might need supported. And then I get the opposite end of the spectrum where I get people coming in who have been to 800 different doctors, and every doctor tells them they're fine, but they feel like absolute shit and nobody's doing anything to help them because they don't know what to do. If your labs look fine, then nothing is wrong, right?
Yeah.
I think an ideal world would be if we could have a truly integrated medical model where we could really work together with MDs. Right now, we're not really there yet, but I think that there's a time and a place for both of our medicines, and if we could just work together, we could have a really great system. Maybe one day.
That is definitely put a pin in that, because I could go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I had two doctors that disagreed on something for me, and I couldn't get them to, they would only talk to each other through me, which was really frustrating. And it was about dosing for a medicine. And I'm like, I'm not I don't know, right? I worked it out, but and interesting. And also, Penn, I have somebody I need to send to you who's in that exact this problem, and countless CAT scans and MRIs and anyway, that's so I'm glad that you exist. And so while we're talking today, I'll just frame it up briefly. I have been caring for people, mostly as a trainer. I'm into movement, right? Movement as medicine, and helping people achieve their goals, whether that's lose body fat, gain muscle, just reduce pain. Pre-pandemic, all in person, post-pandemic, a hybrid world. I spend a lot of hours with people, and once I get them moving, people tend to talk about what's going on with them and what's going on in their life. I'm not a life coach, I'm not a shrink, but my clients often joke oh, I need some therapy today, and so they'll just talk to me, and I listen because I care about my humans, and I look at it through a wellness lens. The more well, meaning happy, not sick, my clients are, the better equipped I am to like help them meet their physical goals. And I feel as though, we all kind of went through this big thing during pandemic, and it was like super duper scary. And, here we are on the other side. Like, many of us are super grateful for what we have. If we have like a hybrid pseudo work from home setup, we're like super grateful for that. We have, lots of people have learned how to bake bread, or like started re-engaging with running. So there's like so many wonderful things that people recognize in, a post-pandemic world. But so many people, I mean, myself too, my husband too, some are like, why do we have this like chronic stress? And like, I think I know how to recognize chronic stress and burnout, but how people are articulating it to me is like, they're like, I should be rested, but I'm not. I want to exercise, but I feel like total shit and just am not motivated to do it. I'm like, I had one friend like say like, I can't breathe. Like what? Like literally look at me and like put his hand on his stomach. It's like, is this anxiety? And I'm like, oh, honey, you don't know. Like, oh my God, I know. So I wanted to talk to you about, what you're seeing with your clients and what's working with your clients and patients, and like what your recommendations are for, this like sort of burnout culture that we're feeling.
Yeah. And I mean, I see all of those things. And I think the most interesting thing is when I ask people, like, what's your stress level like? And they look at me like, I don't know. I don't really have any stress, but I have heart palpitations and I can't sleep and I have all of these other things. And I'm like, okay, let's come back to that later. So, I mean, I think a lot of it for people is recognizing that they're under stress is hard, or that they're experiencing anxiety. A lot of people have never experienced severe anxiety prior to the pandemic. What I was really seeing is that these things were especially spiking immediately post-pandemic, when people started kind of going back into the office, kids started going back into school. There seemed to be this like just instability and mood, a lot more social anxiety. Like we were isolated for so long, people forgot how to socialize, and then they got scared to socialize. And then going out into the world was like really crazy. And just the energy throughout the pandemic was so chaotic. And I think it's taken a long time for people to feel a sense of grounding after that, or to be able to find a sense of grounding. And I think it's changed for a lot of people. Like you said, you had people who this would work for them pre-pandemic, but now it's not working anymore. So I think there's just been a lot of shifts that people don't really know how to manage very well. One of the things that I've been really working on with a lot of people, so like the way that I categorize burnout is adrenal fatigue. And so our adrenal glands are our stress glands. That's what releases cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine when our bodies are in a fight or flight state or a chronic phase of stress. Humans are really the only species on the planet that can maintain long-term stress. Like most animals I know, it's really exciting. We're so special. But most animals, they'll go into fight or flight. They'll run away from a predator. Everything's fine. They shake it off and they get back to eating and lounging and relaxing. And we maintain long-term stress 8 to 12 hours a day, depending on what you do. If you're a parent or not, all those things. And so that's really draining on our adrenal glands. And over time, the adrenal glands can't keep up with the production of those hormones. So you fall into either adrenal fatigue or adrenal burnout, which a lot of people experience, just this chronic fatigue, brain fog, lack of motivation, they're not sleeping well. There's just all of these things that can be created from that. And then it can also be compounded by like nutritional deficiencies and hormone imbalances. And so it's like there are all these things that our systems all work together. They're not separate like they would be treated in the Western realm. You'd see an endocrinologist, or you'd see a GI specialist, or you'd see a cardio specialist. They're not separated like that. They all play off of each other. And so one of the things that I've really been talking to people about, which I think would be really helpful for your clients, and I don't know if this is something that you do, is more of like an intuitive exercise where I ask people, if you're doing a higher intensity exercise, if you go on a run or you do a HIIT class or whatever, how do you feel afterwards? And if they look at me and they're like, well, I feel like I want to take a nap, like that's too stressful for your body.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was just telling someone the other day, like Yeah, like I've been a trainer for 10 years. Like the first 5 years, it was mostly telling people they need to move more and harder. And like, there was a little bit of like, oh, let's do some hill sprints and some HIIT, because there's all that research at one point that was like, steady state is terrible, low intensity sucks, do HIIT. I don't know. So we kept it moderate, but now like I cannot think of a single client that I actually recommend high intensity work for. And most of them, particularly new clients, are like, oh, I just want, let's just get the shit out of me. And I'm like, whoa, like I don't say it quite as eloquently as you did, but I'm like, you're in a state of like PTSD. And if you actually want to like lose weight and like feel better, you need to go for a walk. And some of them are like really like, and I tell them you can earn your HIIT back. Cause like some people just love, the Barry's boot camp or the sprints, and there's value in HIIT if you have a healthy adrenal system and like healthy levels of stress, or it can be great. But like we need to like we need to get you there first. And the way to get there is, I forget what you said, I think you said intuitive exercise, but like it's like my intuition is like you need some low intensity exercise for a while.
Yeah, and so doing more like restorative exercise, like yoga, Pilates, just some weightlifting, like something that is not going to totally stress your system out, because any amount of stress that you add to your system is going to put you more in the red. And so doing things that are restorative, that are also on one hand somewhat meditative for a lot of people, doing hiking, walking, yoga, Pilates, even sometimes weightlifting can be meditative for people because it's slower. And so I think that is a huge thing. And people look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them that. I'm like, just try it and do it for yourself. If you want to do a HIIT class and you feel really great afterwards, that's fine, but don't overdo it. Don't keep pushing yourself. I can do more. I can do more. I can do more. And then you're going to put yourself into a place of fatigue.
I love that. Thank you. I want to well, that's why we're recording it, because people don't always believe me. And I'm like, look, here's a doctor. Do what she says.
Well, I'm happy to support that for you. I mean, some of the more kind of obvious things like implementing stress management techniques, I think, are huge. And I think people take that like, well, I have to meditate. It doesn't always have to be meditation. It's whatever it is for you that makes you feel relaxed and restored. And that can look different for everybody. For you, for JJ, it might be running a half marathon is really relaxing and stress management. For me, no, thank you. I would prefer sitting in my backyard or doing some yoga or getting in the water, like just whatever it is, because it's like, it's building a habit. So the more often that you can switch your nervous system into that more restful state, the easier it's going to be when you're in a place of high stress. And so I've actually been seeing a lot of people who have been experiencing panic attacks for their first time in their life, and they can't switch their system out of it. And they tell me like, my mind is over here saying like, I'm anxious, and my body's just on autopilot and just like goes into this panic attack. And so the more often you can train your mind to stay inside your body and stay connected, and then switch your nervous system into a calmer state, the easier it's going to be during those periods of time.
It's what I've recently, like I've always loved yoga. It just has fallen because I am an endurance runner now and doing half marathons, and I love lifting weights. And so like, there's just only so many hours in the day, and I have re-engaged in a yoga practice, and like it feels good. It's a stretch, but really and one thing I've done in the last couple of months, I never really used to pay as much attention to like the breathing cues. I'm like, I'll breathe when I breathe.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, then I'm just stretching really, but actually now engaging in the breathing. And so I will do like, 50 minutes of like deep, intuitive, like purposeful breathing. And that has been like so nice. And, like I've done like box breathing demos for clients as well, just because it's like a grounding.
Yeah, I mean, the breathing is probably the most important part. And that is something that people can really implement at any point of day when they're experiencing like, oh, I'm a little anxious. Like, take a minute, do a few deep breaths, like making sure that you're actually breathing into your stomach, not just through your chest, because most of us are shallow breathers. And the reason for that is, so the vagus nerve is the nerve that switches our nervous system when activated into a calmer resting state. And that goes all the way from the back of our head down through our diaphragm. So when you activate your diaphragm during a breath, it's stimulating that vagus nerve, which is then signaling your brain to relax. So really taking those deep breaths is something that I tell people, like, when you're at work, just like walk away from the computer for a minute, take a couple deep breaths, go stand outside, take a couple deep breaths, but like really make sure that you're breathing as deeply as you can when you're doing that. And it doesn't have to be a whole breath work session. It can just be, 30 seconds to a minute of breathing and really focusing on that.
I love what you said about autopilot, because that's something that I and my husband talk about all the time. And I'll catch myself. Like, I'm super productive. I value like getting all my things done. And at one point, and I have had this conversation with a lot of clients, like, I feel like at one point years ago, I could like get them all done in a day. All the, meal prep and workout and answer all the emails and all of the texts and like write all the blogs and do all the things. Like, at one point in life, I can't remember when, I felt like I closed the day. And then I, turned the lights off and I went home. And now I need to, like, I'm closing up to the fact that like, everything, the world just works 24/7 all the time, between WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and texts and emails and phone calls. And, you make one haircut appointment and that yields 3 texts and 4 emails and 19 confirmations. And I just can't keep up. And I used to try to keep up with it. And so like, I would find myself, like, I have 5 minutes between clients where I walk to the bathroom, I fill up my water bottle, I go to the bathroom, maybe I shove some food in my mouth, and I'm constantly just trying to respond and keep up. And I'm kind of declaring like bankruptcy, like I can't.
Mm-hmm.
But how I noticed it was like, I am always like autopilot, like walking home. I'm like, okay, I got 10 minutes to walk home. Let me answer all these things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get home and I'm like, I got to empty this bag. Okay. Empty that bag. Now I got to refill the bag for tomorrow. And now I got to do it. And I wasn't there. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're not there, you're not focusing on your breath. And like, I rush for no reason. Like, I'm like scurrying to get home. Like, why? Right? Like, I'm just like trying to get it all done. And I think once I declared like, I can't get it all done, I need to change my relationship with my to-do list and with my phone way early on in this. And it takes years to change behavior. But like, I'm like, I don't want to live that way anymore. It's just too hard.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that Bradley and I have been talking about a lot. I literally told him I was going to get a lockbox for his phone to put in the evening.
Yeah.
And I think that our culture, especially in the United States, is really, really bad with this like hustle culture. And so like, let's take cues from other countries in Europe, like Italy and France, and they prioritize self-care so much. They all go home for lunch, they spend time with their families. There's so much community within their culture. There's so much relaxing and self-care and prioritizing that over being so busy and productive all the time. And we don't always have to be doing something productive if that's not what's serving you. Like, it's okay to just sit in silence sometimes, but we look at that as being lazy.
Yeah.
And that's not, so I mean, I think it falls under the same category as stress management techniques, but self-care is something that I've been talking to a lot of people about, especially those of us that really struggle with like control and perfectionistic traits, where we want to do all the things on our checklist and it's really stressful for us not to. So trying to be more flexible with that and realizing the more you actually care for yourself, the more capacity you actually have to get those things done and the more mental clarity you'll have to do them.
I think with self-care too, like I had this conversation with a life coach friend of mine who's like a self-care guru. And I listened to her podcast because she's like a lovely friend that I don't get to see much. I love the sound of her voice, and talks about so much like self-care. And it finally dawned on me, and this I think is kind of related to autopilot and being productive. Like, I do self-care things. Like, I take a nap and go for a walk. Mainly, and just because I know I'm supposed to do them, and I'm a good boy who does the things he's supposed to do. And I do things that are like, I'm a wellness professional. I mean, I'm a trainer, but I'm a wellness professional too. So like, but I realized like so many people that I work with like A-type driven people who like want to win. And so, they'll hear self-care and they'll be like, okay, I got to go for a walk. And they're like, can I go on this fucking walk? Like, they really like it. And so like, I finally, I was having a text conversation with a client over the weekend, who like was doing self-care things, but like grumpy and pissed about it. And I'm like, well, then those aren't the self-care things. Like they should make you feel good. So like just do the self-care things that like you read about. Like if you like what I'm like hate, like there's people who like don't like massage that stresses them out. But, like they get them because they think they're supposed to. I'm like, no, don't do it. It's supposed to be good for you. Like so like going for a walk and getting a massage and taking a nap and getting a bubble bath and all of those things, like those are great ideas, but you know, like find the thing that works for you. Like you said, mine is running. It's like so wonderful on a Saturday morning. It's like I protect it on my schedule so much. My friend like loves to garden. I'm like, ew, gross. Like, so like finding the thing that is for you. So like, you know, I'm gonna tease family. Like if like hanging out with your family sounds awful, then like come up with something else, right?
Right. Well, and I think like taking a look at that list of things that you are considering self-care, and if you look at it and you're just like, I'm doing that because I'm supposed to do it.
Yeah.
It's not for you. Don't do it. You know, for some people, for a friend of mine, it's doing like her skincare routine at night. Like that is self-care for her. And that makes her feel really nourished and really good. For some people, it's cooking, and it doesn't have to be something that anybody else enjoys. It just has to be for you. And so doing a little bit of exploring and experimenting with that, I think is really important for people.
Yeah, there needs to be some time and energy dedicated in your day to doing the things that you want to do, that like that actually work for you, not because you read or listened in the Huberman lab or like or even I or even told them to do it. Like it's like, what do you want to do? Like what do you really want to do, and making some room for that.
Yeah, and if it is something that you really want to do, you will notice that your mind is actually present within it. If you're doing something that you don't want to do and you're like, I'm going on a walk because I have to, you're probably thinking about work, you're thinking about your kids, you're thinking about your to-do list and all the other things that you have to do because you're not enjoying yourself. So, you know, and that's a big part of it. If you're not present in it and you're thinking about other things, then you're defeating the purpose. So some of the other things that I was thinking about, something that I talk to a lot of my clients, my patients about, is don't eat lunch at your desk in front of your computer. Like a lot of people will have digestive issues when they're within a stressful or a burnout situation, because when your nervous system is stuck in that fight or flight state, it's going to shut off the things that are not essential, which is your digestion. You can't be like having a bowel movement when you're trying to run away from a predator, and your reproductive system. So it's also a huge libido killer for a lot of people. And so when you're eating meals, like don't do it on the go as much as you can. Like really sit down and be intentional with your food, put the work away, tell your kids to go in the other room, like whatever it is that can actually make you feel a little more relaxed while you're eating. It'll just allow you to actually digest your food a little easier, allow you to actually absorb the nutrients from your food. Otherwise, a lot of people will have some reflux. They'll have like, you know, things will just kind of move through them too quickly. They're just really not absorbing the food in the way that they should, which creates a lot of nutritional deficiencies.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then like I said earlier, a lot of people, I think these are compounded by nutritional deficiencies. What I see most commonly is iron, especially for women, B12 and vitamin D. And all of those nutrients can create a similar picture to adrenal fatigue, brain fog, lack of concentration, lack of motivation. And so making sure that you're getting all of those things assessed and looked at to make sure that it's not being compounded by something else too, as well as hormonal assessments and getting your hormones looked at. Because like I said, your reproductive system is shut off when you're stuck in fight or flight. So oftentimes that creates a hormone imbalance for a lot of people. For men, it can start to lower their testosterone levels. And for women, it can create a lot of abnormalities within their cycles. And that can in itself create a lot of mood and kind of brain foggy like pictures too. So
I can definitely speak to that one. I usually have, anyway, I get my blood tested for various things pretty regularly because like I love data. And I was going through a period where I just felt like total shit. just like beat down, just like couldn't do it. And it just wasn't me. And I know I wasn't sleeping well. And I don't know if like, chicken or egg. But I got blood work done and I was like, they were like, are you anemic? No. And they're like, you have like no iron. And so for a period of time, I went on an iron supplement and like to get out of that. And now, it kind of like corrected itself. Like then I started to feel better and I started to do the things and I could sleep better. And, I kind of went back and they're like, okay, let's take you off let's take you off of the supplement and then retest and see if you've like kind of self-corrected. And like, now I'm not. And I'm like, oh, thank God. I was like, I'm anemic, what? And so,
Wow.
yeah, I can definitely. And that's exactly what it feels like. You just are just like dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I have people who come in and their iron levels are like so close to zero, it's absurd. And I'm like, how are you even functioning right now?
It was great. The doctor was like, please go eat steak. And I was like, oh, okay, sure.
All right, whatever.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not sure that's the greatest nutritional advice. Like probably as some like Western medicine doctors don't. I was like, they just go eat all the steak you can. I was like, that's lead to other things, but like, thank you, I got you. More iron.
We'll take it into consideration.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation, okay?
Agreed.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I love data just like you do. And so I think something that is really cool is, I don't know if there are very many Western doctors that would order this. So you might have to see more of like a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor, but you can get your adrenal levels assessed by doing a salivary test. And it shows you this like really beautiful curve. So it's called a 4-point salivary test where you take samples 4 times throughout the day. And then it shows you what your adrenal glands are doing throughout the day. So it tells us, are there any particular times of the day where your adrenal function is particularly low, or maybe it's elevated at night when it's not supposed to, and then therefore you're not sleeping well. And a lot of people have a really skewed curve, whether it's that they're just completely depleted and they just have like zero adrenal function all day and they just feel like crap all day, or some people actually feel okay during the day and they have sufficient adrenal function, but then at night it's also high, so then they can't sleep. So it helps us better determine how to support that with the herbs and nutrients that we're doing to heal the adrenal function.
Oh, cool. And that's a test that you can do?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll just send people to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I can do that.
Right. Don't be shy. If there's something that you want, that you guys do, it's not self-promote, like tell people, because people will want to know. Like at least my clients are always super open. Like, where can I go to get this information? So
yeah, I mean, I can run any of the tests that we talked about. I specialize in hormones, especially for women, but also for men. And so like anything hormone related, I just love doing. I think it's so exciting. And so any of the, we run just kind of more of a detailed lab panel looking at hormone and nutritional deficiencies. And then we can do the salivary test for the adrenal glands. And it just gives us like a really direct path as to how to treat those problems. And then just I use herbs and just nutrients that they don't cover up the symptom. They actually help your body readjust to functioning the way that it's supposed to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, before we wrap up, did I cover like the big things? Are you still sitting on some Easter eggs that you would just have to get out there?
I mean, the only other thing that I had on my list was that I've been telling all of my patients to take a vacation.
Oh, that's a great one. A great one.
And I think everybody's been listening this summer. So many people have been on vacation this summer, but especially because vacation can be stressful for people. Of course, the planning, the doing, and all of the things, but most people come back feeling rejuvenated and refreshed. And we don't take like holiday like they do in the UK or in Europe. And I think that is something that people should try to prioritize a little bit more.
Oh, I love that. That's a good one. That's a good one. It's fun as a trainer and now as someone like focusing on the positive too, like pre-world, my training clients that go on vacation, you're like, well, bye, I'll see you in a week or 2 weeks or a month. And my clients that travel now, because we largely have embraced virtual training and in person, like it's so fun to me. Like clients who go away like want to keep working out. So they'll work out in a hotel room, with just like we would in the gym or here. And I love that. Like, I'm not, obviously, like if I'm part of the problem and you need a vacation for me, like go take a vacation too.
Yeah.
If exercise and training usually is something that like lifts people up. And so I love the fact that like it used to be like the summer was really slow for trainers, right? Like, but now people are like, oh no, I still want to work out even while I'm, at the beach or, at the river or whatever. And I just think that that's like really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool. It's definitely changed our world in a lot of ways. And I think that we haven't necessarily found a completely comfortable new normal. And I think that throws a lot of people off too.
Yeah.
There's just like this uncertainty for a lot of people. But we're getting there one day at a time.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to like, share this stuff and talk about your practice and get us thinking about these things. And tell Dr. B, I saw him back there. He's supposed to be here. He's supposed to be here working on people like me. I'm in the office. I love that. I love that he's not in the office.
Yeah, not on Wednesdays.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, thank you again so much. And I will talk to you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Doc.